How's everybody doing today? You know, when we look around the room and we see these faces, and we see some of these faces now on a regular basis, it's easy to take for granted this activity. But consider where we are. We're in the National Guard's Emergency Operations Center. There's a clock giving multiple time zones because right now men and women are patrolling the streets all over the world. We heard recently about Niger, but we know over 100 countries have our brothers and sisters and dozens of oceans and seas around the world, right? So the work that we do is contextualized. We talk about percentages, we talk about numbers, we talk about populations, we talk about success rates, but we all know, and nobody made any mistakes, I'm just reminding us, we all know at the end of the day, what's the end state? We're trying to save lives. We're trying to improve lives. I was listening to all those great services offered, thinking, I need half of those services, Jan. I mean, all of us probably on some level, Jeff is laughing, we really do. All of us on some level have some connection to this population that we serve. It's why we're here. But when you look around the room, don't take for granted the blend and the mix that's here. Senator Burt, Betty Jo, would you please stand up for a second and say you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself, but we have all of our federal representatives. Would you please stand up? Dwight, we have representation from Congressman Walker. If you're representing a member of Congress, look at this. Please give them a round of applause. And consider this. Once a month, you know where you can find the representative of your representatives at the federal level. And you know why it's so important that y'all are here? Because that makes sure that our friends at VA really want to be here too, to make sure that they're there on time to address. It's a relationship that's important. We're all holding and keeping each other to account, right? And it's so good that you're here. And it's so good that the LME MCOs are here. And it's so good that smaller nonprofits are here alongside big national-facing activities, the Cohen Foundation working beside smaller foundations, smaller organizations that are reboot, just getting started, but important work helping people. Lucas, helping veterans who get out of jail. You wouldn't know where to look that up on the internet, but once a month you know where you can find him. So please, spread the word about this governor's working group, this activity. It's so important that the energy is maintained, that this convening is maintained. Moses has some remarks, I think, at the end about maybe a shift in the format. Whatever that turns into, this opportunity for you to convene without having to make an appointment with Andy and the team from U.S. Veteran Corps, but just knowing that you can see him here, that matters. And there's value in that for the populations that you help and serve. So with that being said, I've got a 4-page bio right here that I just want to go through quickly. I'm trying to get some laughs out of this room. And listen, I'm going to use the balance of everybody else's time because I know when this thing has to end. So this will be the first time I actually stay all the way through to the end, I think, Moses. So that's why Dr. Fang stuck me at the end. So the best for last. So we're going to talk a little bit about an activity that I'm involved in that I'm very proud to be a part of with the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. And just last week, we had a 2-year anniversary of an activity that we launched in Charlotte called NC Serves Metrolina. And so we have 2 years of data of that. But in front of you, and this is important here because it gives a little bit of an overview on the program and also some data that's up to date looking at the Carolinas wide. What's really neat is that we've gone beyond borders, and I'll get to that in a moment. So we're going to talk a little bit about the origins of the program. Some of you know and are familiar with it. In fact, I'll be pointing out some of our colleagues here shortly, and Kelly and the Sergeant Major from the USO of North Carolina, an important colleague here in the region. We're going to talk a little bit about the outcomes. We're going to talk a little bit about our clients, and we're going to talk a little bit about folks like all of you, the providers that are in the network. And yes, this is an unabashed appeal that if you haven't yet joined representatives of our members of Congress, if you haven't yet become members of this provider network, what a great opportunity. There's always time. We're always looking to include you and involve you because you in turn can better help this population that we love. And we do love them, right? They're tough customers sometimes though, aren't they? Joe, you serve a tough population. And you know what? They're tough when they're downrange, and then they're tough when they come home. And thank God for both. But the truth of the matter is that they don't like to put their hand up until often it's too late, right? Or They're in real distress and real crisis. And, we all are well-meaning in this space. And after these wars began, the long wars, I'll call them, more than 15 years ago, going on 16 years now, right? After these long wars began, 45,000, I think, is the new number of nonprofit actors combined with government-level activities. Think about navigating a sea of thousands and thousands of well-meaning, well-wishing organizations. Where's the right one or the right place to turn? If you didn't have PTSD before, you typed jobs into Google with veteran. When you get 6.5 million hits, you'll have PTSD afterwards. The truth of the matter is it's dizzying, and it's all well-meaning, and it's all well-intentioned. But then when you tell somebody, go here and down the street, and I've got an event, do we ever know when Jane or Joe leaves your office what happens? That's a little bit of the origin story. This idea of trying to not necessarily build another building or another program per se, but let's work with the ones that we have in the room and that we have in the state and that we have in our counties, and let's tie them together so that the safety net, we all talk about safety nets, right? And we think about it, safety net can be something that can catch, it can be maybe even a trampoline that can bounce our clients back up. But a safety net's a lot more effective when there's thousands of strands like a spider web instead of gaps like a tic-tac-toe board, right? So the more we can interrelate and interconnect with each other, and hats off to all of you. I think you would all have to agree that the veterans in this state and in your communities are doing better today than they were at any time in the last 16 years since these long wars began. The VA has made monumental strides. And we know from the other leadership that's been part of that, and we've seen, and our partners that have gone on to run different activities around the country, your leadership, the VA's leadership, has been a big part of that. And our representatives' leadership has been a big part. But the truth is that a lot of you soldiers, foot soldiers, doing the work a day, every day, helping a brother and sister, that's made a sea change of improvement. We've seen rates of homelessness be attacked really while going down. We've seen unemployment be reduced. We've seen overall a better quality of life for veterans, more staying in North Carolina, right? And that's a great thing, isn't it? We're going to talk a little bit about these coordinated networks, and I'll get into some granular detail later on. Let me just say that the partnership that you see in this room is really what it takes. It takes this kind of a village to be successful serving our veterans and our families. It takes our federal partners. It takes our state-level partners. It takes our corporate partners. They have responsibility here, don't they? Everybody loves a good Veterans Day sale. Come on in. We've got something for you. Red, white, and blue hot dogs. Buy something. Wait a second. You want to take advantage of us as clients, make sure you're there to protect us when we come to you looking for a job or when we come to you in some other kind of a distress. Because we didn't really ask for anything when we volunteered to go and serve, but please don't forget us when we come home and have lost that network. So the good news is that corporate America is standing up in different ways at different times. I bet every organization in this room, either some of them are corporations themselves, some of them have corporate backing, have organizations that support. We do too, and that's an important part of our mix. And so are some of the philanthropic organizations also, and we'll talk about some of that. So the idea of partnering, the idea of working better together, there's nothing novel in this except for one thing. It's really nobody's day job to better coordinate how a client moves from one entity to another. Well, we actually are starting to hear about some organizations actually building this capacity to ensure coordination. But for a long time, a lot of us lived in these silos. And what the America Serves proposition is about busting these silos and better interconnecting partners. And we do some of that through a shared technology platform. The technology platform is important. Some of you have heard me tell this story, and forgive me if I'm going to tell it again. But when I went to Iraq in 2004, there was no Facebook and there was no iPhone. And today, 1 billion people use both at the same time. And so while a big part of our life has changed very dramatically, other aspects of our life have not really caught up in the way that we take care of this community. And it's time, and introducing new technology and new approaches, hearing VA talk about electronic medical, all this stuff is very exciting. And we're here to be alongside them and to be alongside you. Know from the beginning that NC Serves, part of this bigger America Serves effort, is not a replacement for any one of you, but it's an enabler for all of you. You're all race cars, and we're a supercharger. We want you to do more and better faster of what you do. Because if Jeff can take care of 5 veterans that come into his office today, but with a back end like NC Serves, he can take care of maybe 6 or 7, well, that's a couple more people that didn't have to go home with a no, or the wrong answer, or no answer on the phone. That could change a life. That could save a life. And just one. Hey, you know what? We do all our stuff and we put up our PowerPoints, but I think anyone in this room would be deeply, deeply satisfied if they knew that when they left their job, at the end not of a day, but of their career, if you saved one life, wouldn't you feel like you had won lotto and that was worth $1 million? I know that you do. I know that you do. So imagine trying to do that on a daily basis. That's the opportunity when we work better together, right? So what you'll see here is we have this network. It's across the state, and we're gonna jump to it a little bit later on. You see what the mosaic starts to look like of counties, but at the end of the day, we have partners now in different parts of the state that are collaborating. Kelly, would you please stand? And Sergeant Major Barry, would you please stand? Just a reminder, these are partners that are here in the Raleigh-Durham area. If you're in this community, please come and visit with them. We'll stay after. We'd love to invite you. We'd love to give you a technology demonstration. We'd love to share with you. Brianna, would you please stand? Thank you, guys. Would you please stand? Brianna's down at the coast. Hate the big city? Want to go down to the coast? Come on down. We'd be glad to have you, right? And we're home to, we're home to the world's greatest military installation, last I heard. Camp Lejeune. I'm looking right at the Air Force reservist. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at you. That's right. You're big, I know. Okay. Fort Bragg's pretty good. We like Fort Bragg. You know, we've been at this for a little while. Some of the data in front of you speaks to this, but we actually have now already gone through upgrades in our software. So it's like kind of cool when you get the iPhone for the first time and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so different than my Nokia phone. And now we've already gone through like version upgrades of the thing. Like it's progressing. This is what happens, and it's neat. This is what happens when you blend the public and the private sector. So the software is getting better. Kelly and her team at USO have just gone through this upgrade, and it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, frankly, when you have to retrain folks, our partners at Wake Tech, when you have to retrain folks on a software platform. But the software is evolving, the tech is evolving, it's getting better, it's getting more thoughtful, it's getting easier to use. So really do invite you all to give it a try. A little bit on the origins, again, just to wrap this piece up. I think you all know it started in Charlotte. It grew with our partners here in the USO, who also helped it expand down to the beach with their partners at Eastern Carolina Human Services Agency. And then just this summer, in August, we opened up with Asheville Buncombe Community Christian Ministry, ABCCM. If you don't know ABCCM, who here in this room has never heard of ABCCM? Please raise your hand. What? You've never heard of them? Guys, gals, this is one of the best veteran-facing homeless interdiction programs in the country. I encourage you to go visit them. P.S., they're on page 93 or 94 of the resource guide. You can look them up. They run the Veterans Restoration Quarters. ABCCM helps to put homeless men and women back to work. They have an old converted motel. They put people up, they get them back on the street, they give them productive lives back. Wonderful organization. That's our partner in the mountains. USO, wonderful partner here in the capital. ECHSA, wonderful partner at the coast. Charlotte Bridge Home, wonderful partner in Charlotte. What's the through line? We're always looking for best-in-class partners. And it's always about that local face. And I can say that to y'all. You know me, although you say with that New York accent, how does he say y'all? Kind of hurts your ears, doesn't it? Yeah, it's terrible. I know. You all know me, but imagine the dozen communities now where we're operating this around the country that have never heard of me or my colleagues. But by the time we arrive and we're working with that local partner, that goes a long way to build and establish trust. Does that make sense? So we'll just jump a little bit through and talk about the impact. You've got this map here in front of you. I basically broke it up into 2 slides. What I want you to get at is that we're paying very close attention to what the activity looks like, to what the results are. And our most mature network, Charlotte, has been at this the longest. Our other networks are younger, and so they're catching along, and they're going to continue up the curve and grow just like Charlotte. All of this was developed because we just celebrated Charlotte's 2-year anniversary. And we only just recently had the 1-year anniversary here for Raleigh, right? So they're literally a year behind. So that's what that looks like. But also know this, the kinds of cases, the coverage. Hey, you know what else is neat? Did anybody notice the shape of North Carolina there is a little awkward? Yeah, because veterans don't really care about state lines, do they, Vision Director? They're all over the place, and they're operating across territories. So we have a network in South Carolina, and what's not on this particular chart or this data set is that we have a network in in Virginia, in Hampton Roads, and then in Northern Virginia, we're getting ready to launch this spring in Washington, D.C. So this continues to grow, and what's neat is that clients can be referred back and forth. What kind of things are our clients looking for? We'll get into some detail on that later, and you've got some of that here, but housing and shelter, a big need. Big need. Really hard to be thoughtful and optimistic about the future when you don't have a place to hang your hat. How about jobs? Is that important? Of course it is. That's why our relationship with NC Works, with Lane, with Archie is so important. They're a great partner of ours. We work at the state level. We work at the county level with the veteran service offices. Jim Prosser, if he's still on the line, he probably heard my voice and hung up the phone. Jim, if you're still here, you know Jim was instrumental in Mecklenburg County of helping to get this off the ground. You know, when I sat in the chair up here, I was actually a naysayer when this thing first came to North Carolina. Flo remembers. I thought, who is this group from Syracuse University coming to tell us how to take care of our veterans? But sure enough, you know what I saw? I saw a bunch of men and women that meant well and that were really giving the keys to the castle to our local partners. All they were doing, all I do now is go out and try and facilitate some community awareness and then deliver a software platform to this community to be able to connect with each other better. Because you know what? It's really hard to share that picture on your iPhone when your cousin has a rotary phone. So unless you get everybody on a platform, it's really hard to do the warm handoff stuff we're talking about. And because this is a public-private network, we're able, the veteran opts in. It's a they're volunteering. So they're not coming to you thinking that your member of Congress is making them do this, or that the VA insists that they do this, or that your nonprofit mandates, or that your LME NCO says they must. You say there's a great opportunity out here if you choose to use it, and if they accept they're in this system voluntarily, but all their information is protected, HIPAA compliant, PII protected, and we measure our data. We care about things like speed and accuracy. Does anybody shoot competitions? I'll go past this then. Speed and accuracy. What's speed without accuracy? It's great to drive 100 miles an hour if you can't stay in your lane. Are you going to die? And how good is accuracy? It's wonderful to write the perfect paper that's delivered a day too late and you get an F. So speed and accuracy by themselves are useless, but together they're potent, right? So we care about speed and accuracy because at the other end of that request is a human being. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Carrie Ann. This is just a little track of her service. She showed up. She was getting ready to separate. She actually came and presented in Charlotte, talking a little bit about her needs when she was leaving the Navy. And listen, we have cases all the time. Somebody needs their lights on. Somebody's in a substance abuse issue. We're not an emergency hotline. We refer to, if it's a 911 situation, we ask them to go there. But lots of men and women are looking for purpose, or looking for a place to connect, and we are able to help offer that and a range of other services. In this case, we were able to get Carrie Ann on her way, and she's been able to be a successful and productive person. She also put in other requests, seeking help with employment, and she's in the midst now of interviewing. All of these things are starting to turn around. Here's what's noteworthy. How many of your clients ever show up with just one request? Typically, it's lots of things, right? So when you look at this chart and you see that we service lots of different areas, most clients, one of the things that you might notice, and if I back up or even here, these are the Charlotte numbers. Well, we've only had 2,000, almost 3,000 clients in Charlotte, but look how many requests. Because nobody shows up saying, I just need VA benefits. By the time they're arriving there, they really need a bunch of other things, don't they, Evan? And we've seen this. We all know this to be true. But when you make that handoff, when you give somebody your business card, Rangers might lead the way, but somebody could get lost on the way to the bathroom, and you never know if they made it to your office. So we try to make sure that the software tracks that. Is everybody like being women veteran friendly? we don't just like to talk about it. 26% of our clients are women veterans and women users. Okay, pop quiz. What's the percentage of women veterans in the state of North Carolina? Less. It's like 9. Jeff, if it's 11, I'll take you. We'll thumb wrestle for it. I say 9. He says 11. We'll go. You can tune into the Green Room episode later to find out who won. But the bottom line is, it's not 26. That's almost a 3-factor multiply, right? 26% of our users are women. So this is a very new approaches, new ways to reach this population. That's important because I love my brothers and sisters in the DAV and in the American Legion and the VFW. But sometimes those halls aren't the friendliest place for somebody to go that's looking for something. And so new approaches are good. And we want to share that approach with you. So who are some of the provider partners? Just very quickly, I know in the interest of time, everybody's thinking every moment he speaks, traffic gets worse. Every syllable that comes out of my mouth, your commute home goes up by a minute. Well, tough. That's why it's called the working group. So Stacy Lowry runs actually Mecklenburg County Services, Mecklenburg Veteran Services, working very closely with the network. They refer in, they refer out. Wake County, Kelly was telling us a great story about how Wake County is starting to get really active. But we have other counties in the region too, and we'd love your help engaging them. We'd love Lee and Harnett counties to be active users. We'd love Orange County, we'd love Durham County to be active users. So you can all go reach back and try and help us get people enlisted in this effort. Goodwill, boy, wonderful partners. We get to work with them in all the locations where they exist around the country. We're partnered up because their funder, the Walmart Foundation, happens to be one of our funders. And so they say and they like to see us work together because we both do good work and we do better work together. Moving through, and again, in the interest of time, we'll just jump a little bit to what we're looking forward to and what all of this means. So Moses, this is going to be basically my last slide. Then I'd like to open it up to a question or two. What you see here is some pretty good growth. This started in one location in North Carolina. We're now at 4. We've got a location in South Carolina, one in Virginia, soon to be 2. We're in Pittsburgh, soon to be in Philadelphia. We're in New York City, upstate New York. We just started with the state of Rhode Island. That's really cool because the state of Rhode Island is like the size of Wake County. So we got the whole thing, and we've got their senators and their members of Congress, and I mean, we've got the whole shooting match. The director, everybody's on board because that's half the population of Rhode Island. But seriously, you've got a state-level engagement. Now North Carolina has a state-level engagement, and North Carolina's state-level engagement because we have coverage. It wasn't mandated by any smart policy group in Raleigh. It was born grassroots. In fact, it was resisted by Raleigh. How do I know? I was the biggest resistor. I didn't trust the software. Who are these guys? 4 years ago, it was a startup. Now I trust it. I've seen it. I've used it. I've tried to break it. These things are growing. It's evolved. We'd love for you to join the effort. Look how it's growing across the Northeast. We're looking at operations. We have 1 in Texas, soon to be 2, Washington State and Seattle. Ultimately, we'll grow to about 18 communities. The goal is not blanket the country. The goal is get the right mix of communities and then continue to refine and tweak performance. It's all about refining and getting these communities to work better. So it's important at some point to get some spread, different types of geography. New York City is different than Jacksonville. Although, frankly, if you drive through Jacksonville, the drivers are all as bad as New York City, so you wouldn't know. But the point is, you get a spread in the geography. Now you can start looking at meaningful data, and you can start to understand what does it mean when somebody in need of rapid rehousing, it takes 4.5 days in the Triad when that area opens soon, and NC serves Raleigh, Durham, Fayetteville. Is in fact, Kelly, would you like maybe you're going to do it in the announcement section, or would you like to make a comment about it now? Come on. Well, home run. Thank you. So in the interest of time and to wrap all of this up, my contact information, there's a lot of things that you can do. If you're not a provider, please become a provider. If you are a provider, please engage another provider. If you'd like to learn more, we have a website at ncserves.org. but my contact information is right here. IG Pantan. They said, what's the weirdest way to scramble his initials and make it hard for people to remember? But that's my email. That's my cell phone. There are business cards at my desk. I'll even leave some here. And with that, any questions before Moses takes over and kicks me off? My dear Deborah.
Let's say you have multiple providers that provide exactly the same service. How will you refer those out?
That's a great question. Sometimes it depends on urgency. So our software now has a new feature where we can actually release a request to 4 or 5 different providers, and whoever answers it first gets that client, and then it's retracted from others. Sometimes, and here's the thing. This isn't just about laying out a matrix. It's also about the human connection. Kelly and the Sergeant Major and all of you remember Randy Baker. Their team is about providing a human Google to this. It's not just about an algorithm. It's about knowing, understanding, because the truth of the matter is, as similar as entities might seem, everybody has different eligibility requirements. Everybody has different capacity. My grant just expired in October, and so constant communication is the key. So we have a great tech platform, but at the end, it's the human-to-human relationships being involved in the community that allow us the knowledge. Great point.
Let's expand on that question. How do you rate? Let's expand on the question that was asked by Jennifer. How do you rate or assess similar systems, similar services?
We are able to track response times. We're able to track at the speed at which an organization responds to a request, and then ultimately if that request is satisfied positively or not. So speed and accuracy were 2 of the principles that we were talking about earlier. Did the control tower get the plane to the right runway, right? It's easy to land the plane anywhere, but if you land the plane on a highway instead of the runway, it's not so good. So did we get them to the right runway? So it was a positive or negative outcome, and then how quickly was that positive or negative outcome achieved? So these are if you wanted to understand some of the formulaic work, sir, that's a part of it. More broadly, we have the knowledge ultimately, and Kelly can speak to this more offline. I'd like to invite this conversation after the meeting. I don't want to hold everybody here. But consider that our teams are doing this all the time. And when they send a request out and it comes back unsatisfactory, that's remembered. And that human and historical knowledge ultimately fuels how many more requests go out to that organization. At the same time, organizations that do well and respond quickly, they ultimately get more referrals. So it becomes a very transparent way of evaluating who's actually walking the walk versus just talking the talk. Moses, I'm going to give it back to you and you decide. Oh, wait a second. Big VA. Come on. Hey. Thank you. It's a great question. When this activity started, and it's evolved, we thought that we needed to talk to providers and that we needed to talk to veterans, and were we public-facing or private? And frankly, there was a little schizophrenia. We were trying to be everything to everyone. And in the evolution of this process, we've realized, how much does the last Senate campaign cost in this state? What does it cost to get everybody in this state to know about you and your name and what you stand for? About $100 million? Okay, we don't have the budget. Nobody has the budget to advertise like that, to get your name in front of every veteran or every family member. So instead, our approach is, I'm going to risk ruining this entire thing shutting down. Everybody can see that Intel Inside sticker on this computer? Everybody has a computer and it says Intel Inside, right? We've become more of a back-end partner, if that makes sense. Our job really is less about recruiting the veterans themselves and more about enabling all these activities that are out there speaking to veterans, that when somebody comes into your offices at one of your CBOCs at the medical center and they have a need that is not specific, maybe they're not eligible, maybe it's a spouse with a Camp Lejeune water issue, but there are state level, for example, medical facilities, LMEMCs that can take care of them. You could give them a card, you could give them the resource guide, or by putting them into the system, you now know that they actually got there, that it took 2.5 days to get care, and that the positive outcome was achieved. The choice. Some folks don't have time. Some folks still want to see how it all develops. I encourage you all, give it a test, give it a drive. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. We're here to stay. One last, say Brown. Go ahead. Oh, good. Say Browns.
Okay, you and I have the same personality, right?
I don't know. I'm a
And you
Marine.
know what we do. Yes, I know. I give a lot to Marines, and Marines work for me. Yes. So I kind of want to know your flow chart here. I know you guys pull information, and it's information from all the groups that are NC serves. Is that how it's done? So I'm curious with our type of group, and you know what we do: food, toys, house. I don't have to go a long thing. The chart for us would be flipped upside down. You know, because of our group, we get the calls from other organizations that have been in this room or the VA that said the first thing you want is food. It's always that issue, food, something tangible first. So to me, because I get so many of those more, because you know we do housing, but I get the food calls, food, water,
Because
way
that's
before.
what you're known for. And there are other entities that get the mental health calls because that's what they're, so some of it is about the camel trails that are already well worn. Some of it, so a lot, and folks will come to you based on your you've got a great professional reputation of having served this population well. We know we can turn to you. And that's true of any given number of community colleges or other providers that become known in a niche. But I promise you that not everybody in this room knows what everybody else in this room does. And that's the job, more or less, of a coordination center, to try to be smart so that if you're a good food resource, we want to make sure that you're down as a food resource
So
when
should
that
we
need
be in
comes up.
this? Should we be in the NC serves?
We would love you to be. Okay. Let's give it a try. Thank you. And with that, we'll take some applause. How about that? We got a convert.